understanding the history of actually help individual citizens.
Policy corrections that the government might have about these kind of long-term changes in operations.
And actually, when I talk about leadership, this is
Ladies and gentlemen, so now please welcome Mr. Sarin KC, our colleague from HITAP.
Hello. Okay. Hello. Mic check. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for coming and joining our session and fantastic presentation, PMAC talks, I should say, and great discussion and some of the questions that came out really useful. So I'm here. I'm Sarin from HITAP on behalf of our team, not only at HITAP but also others who are part of this Lancet Commission. And the objective of the commission is to improve the usefulness of modeling. And before we tell you what we are planning to do, maybe we play around with you. Is people in the audience familiar with this graph? Raise your hand. More hands. We saw similar graphs, many of those from Prof. Gabriel's. Anyone? So this graph is trying to depict what we saw many a times during COVID-19, right? Ring a bell? Hands? Okay. And if I ask you a question, so there's two parts to this graph. So there's the tall curve, and then there's the smoother, smaller curve. Which curve, if I ask you, where would you rather be, where would you say? The left-hand side or the right-hand side? And you can scream. Right. Why would you say right-hand side? You have a speaker right there.
It's much more pleasant.
Okay. That's one answer. Anyone else? Dr. Yot, do you want to tell us why would you prefer the right-hand side? Safe. Anyone? Yeah? Less stressful. Yes. If I were given the choice, I would choose the same. This one, as we saw during COVID-19, higher mortality rate in a short span of time, higher infection rate in a short space of time, really puts a lot of strain on health system resources, but also decision makers. People's lives are lost, and it creates a cascade of impact. And if we manage to stretch that impact over a longer period of time, using lesser resources, that can only benefit our society, right? So I think we are in agreement that we prefer to be on the right side. So then the question, why modeling, right? Why are we obsessed or focused with modeling? And the main reason is that modeling actually allows us to transition from this bigger curve to the smaller curve. Not in itself, but through providing information by showing consequence of action or inaction, as Wyman mentioned earlier. And we saw this during COVID-19. We started off with this graph many a times, and then we slowly transitioned, and we heard the term flatten the curve so many times, right? So this is why we want to emphasize on modeling, because it allows us to get to a better place. It's a safer place, and it's a nicer place to be in, right? And as we heard from the talk earlier, it's not just epidemiological modeling, but modeling in general. It's a tool of the modern era, just like stone used to be a tool back in those stone ages, right? We found a way to utilize it and make it useful for the society. Similarly, models are also tools, just like those stones, and it's only wise that we make an effort to make it better for the better of society. Anyone here know the story of Blind Man and the Elephant? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a few of you. So it's actually not a story, it's actually a poem written by John Sachs in the 1800s. And the story is about these blind men holding different parts of the elephant and thinking that it's not the elephant at all. So some would hold the tail and think it's a rope. Some would hold the tusk and think it's a spear. Some would hold the foot and think it's a tree, right? So what am I trying to get at? If we only focus on some parts and not the whole, we can be misled, just like these blind men who don't think it's an elephant, but think it's either a door, a tree, or whatever. And the modeling is the same. If you think about crisis, all the crises that our speakers demonstrated, from climate, health, or any other crisis, right? Crises tend to affect different aspects of our lives. First on health, if you think about health, then economy, right? It can be on environment, biodiversity. At the simplest and at the core, like personal level, even well-being, right? And then you can think about education, et cetera, et cetera. So crisis, it may start off with one field or one aspect of impact, but then it tends to transcend into different parts. So if we isolate all these impacts and areas, we tend to get a smaller picture, only a partial picture. Now, try to think modelers, and modeling exercise as this elephant, and the rest of society or us as these blind men, right? If we only focus on public health, impact on public health, if we ignore the economic side, if we ignore all the other aspects, we are not able to get a comprehensible picture, and we are not able to find a better solution, right? So we need to work together. Two ways to think about it. One is on health, economy, so different multidisciplinary approach. The second one is modelers also need to talk to each other. We can replace these blind men by modelers, right? If they don't talk to each other, we're not making smart use of the models, right? So that's another. Now, our approach to, so this is what we don't want to do. We don't want to work alone. We don't want to focus only on health. So what do we want to do? We want to create a framework that allows us to integrate not only the modeling, the technical sides of modeling, but also the environment around it, right? And that starts by looking at the governance, the decision-making process, the structures and the stakeholders involved. Who gets to be in that decision-making space, and how do they make the decisions? The actual model development and implementation. What are the standards? We talked about rogue modelers, right? Are there any standards, and how can we make them accountable to those standards? And if there are standards, can we push those boundaries? Can we make modeling even better, right? Communication, we talk about, you highlighted the role of communication to policymakers, but also between modelers. So this is another area. And we talked about journals. What is the role of journals? What is the role of funder? They can all come together and create a way where model results can be communicated and digested by a different audience. And evaluation, why I also talk about M&E, that models can serve like a M&E tool, but going even beyond just thinking as a M&E tool, we need to create an environment where M&E can take place, and for that we need resources, right? So these are some of the core elements that we think are important to look at, and some of the enabling environments that allow modeling to thrive. Our approach does not stop there. Yes, we are focused on epi modeling, but we want to take lessons from different areas. There are modelers and epidemiologists like Prof. Gabriel who are able to go on the ground, take lessons, and then translate it into modeling so that policies can be enacted. But there are others who just punch numbers in their back office and are sort of distinct or distant from the reality in the field. So we want to be able to connect those who work on the ground, those who actually see what's happening on the ground, so that the modelers are able to make realistic assumptions as well as counterfactual scenarios, so that policymakers have an idea, a realistic idea of what to choose and what not to choose We talk about the value of intervention, the value of action, the value of inaction, communication, behavior science, the role of funders, right? So these are all the things that we want to bring in together in the Lancet Commission so that it's not only just about modeling, but the environment and all the aspects surrounding modeling that contribute to impact from crisis. Now, the commission itself, we have two co-chairs leading the commission, Mark Chit from LSHTM and Dr. Wandudiri from HITAP, who's a health economist. And we talked about diversity, and we do take that very seriously. So we have 25 multidisciplinary commissioners, geographically and also gender balanced, and then who come together to finalize the scope of the commission. The framework that we showed earlier is just a start to get the commissioners start thinking and brainstorming together. And the framework is may end up looking completely different to what we presented here. So that's the second part. And then actually conducting the research that is necessary, finding consensus on key recommendation, not only for modelers, but policymakers, other research fields, funders, et cetera, media. And then to work on disseminating and actually practicing some of the recommendations that come out of the Lancet. So yeah, this is what we are planning to do with modeling. And thank you for sharing all your experiences today. We will definitely take them on board. And we hope that you can follow us through our journey. It's going to be a 2-year ride. And if you are interested in this commission, or if you have comments and suggestions for our team, please reach out to us directly. So yeah, thank you. That's what I wanted to share about the Lancet Commission. Thank you.